Hi, I'm the Nomad Producer with StartProducingMusic.com, and today we're going to talk about channel strips. I've received a message from a friend of mine who just started mixing, asking what the hell channel strips are and how to use them. I understand why this thing is not very intuitive, but after we'll explain the logic, it'll be very clear to you what channel strips are and how to use them regardless of the specific strip that you are now working with. Before we dive in, I want to let you know that my course, Start Producing Music, is soon going to be relaunched. I want to invite you to sign up today to the email list and get exclusive content, special discounts, and to know when the course is actually going to be launched. This course covers everything you need to know in order to become a music producer. So make sure you go into startproducingmusic.com, sign up today, and now without further ado, let's learn about channel strips. So channel strips are simply a channel from a console that usually consists of a preamp, a dynamic section consisting of an expander or gate and a compressor, and an EQ. Having everything laid out in one strip is very simple and useful regarding workflow, and even nowadays we have channel strips emulated from specific consoles that model each component and give their character. Modern plugin companies even have modular channel strips in which you can customize and choose each module and build yourself your own custom channel strip. So the SSL channel strip looks like this, and you can see that we have a filter section here, the dynamic section here. This is the compressor in which you can set the ratio, threshold, and release. This button will control the attack and will either be a set fast attack or a set slow attack. And this is the expander or gate, which you can set using these three knobs. Here you have the famous SSL EQ consisting of a low and high shelf that can be changed to bell filters and two mid-range bell bands. As you can see here, you can either take the dynamic section in or out, and the compressor or expander specifically in or out. And here you have the option to engage or disengage the EQ. The dynamic sidechain button will use the EQ that you have created in this section and send it to the sidechain circuitry, or more accurately, the detector circuit of the compressor. If what I just said was not clear for you, I have a video covering compression in depth in which I explain what sidechain and the detector circuit in the compressor are. Lastly, the pre-dynamic button will change the signal flow inside the channel strip and place the EQ before the dynamic section. As a default, the signal flow goes as so. You have the preamp, the input, going to the dynamic section, that then goes to the EQ section, then to the filter section, and finally to the output fader. This will simply mean that the audio goes from the preamp to the EQ and then to the dynamic section. Let's now take a look at a different channel strip by Lindell Audio, and let's see how the logic that we just learned from the SSL comes to play with this plugin. Here we have the preamp section, which has an input and output knob that we can use for saturation, a high boost, a low boost, and a high pass low pass filter. Next up we have the compressor. This is in 1176. It also has an input and output knob, the option to play around with slow, medium, and fast attack and release times, and a dry wet knob as well. This compressor too has a sidechain filter, which you can learn about in my previous video, a few ratios to choose from, and the option to decide how much each side of the stereo affects the other. Lastly, we have a Pultec EQ, which you can also learn about in my EQ types explained video, and you have the option to play with the signal flow using these arrows. Now that we understand the logic, let's play around and see how this comes to action. I'll be using a loop from my upcoming sample pack, which you'll also receive first if you sign up to my email list. So this is the loop unprocessed. Let's start playing around with it. I'll disengage the compressor and the EQ, and we'll start with the preamp section. I can go from mild saturation to pretty extreme saturation if I want. Now let's move on to the compressor. Moving on to the EQ. So as you can see, having everything set in one package is very useful for workflow. Let's look at a last channel strip just to get the information embedded in our brains. This is the API channel strip by UAD. And the signal flow just goes from top to bottom and from left to right. You'll have the preamp section going to the filters, going to the expander gate, then to the compressor, and then to the EQ, and lastly, the output fader. So here you have the input section consisting of a mic and line input that you can change here. You can saturate your audio using these knobs. You have a pad attenuating the level of your audio and a low cut filter, and lastly a phase flip button. A low pass high pass filter that you can engage here and send to the sidechain as well. And then the classic dynamic section, you have the gate expander here. You have these knobs on the compressor changing your knee from hard to soft, and the compression from new to old that, if I recall correctly, changes the compression type from upward compression to downward compression. And a cool feature that UAD inserted here is that you can change from the 550 to the 560 EQ. Here you also have the pre-dynamic button, which will change the signal flow, and the dynamic sidechain. So although they might seem unintuitive, in the end of the day, channel strips are pretty simple to get your head around. So the next time you see a channel strip, don't be daunted or confused. Just try to understand the signal flow, how to engage and disengage modules inside the strip, and to understand if the channel strip gives you any special features that are unique to it. If you have any more questions about this, please let me know. Subscribe and ring the bell to receive new content. Make sure you go into startproducingmusic.com and sign up to my email list to receive exclusive content and discounts on my courses and workshops, and I'll see you soon.